Bhagavatamena Nivriti Dharma Bhiraktaya Tena Sanatkumaraya Sa Chaha Prishtaha Sankhya Yanga Drishta Vataya Proktam Kilaitad Bhagavatamena Nivriti Dharma Bhiraktaya Tena Sanat Kumaraya Sachaha Prishtaha Sankhayana Yanga Drishta Vritaya. Proktam was said, Kila, certainly, Etat, this, Bhagavatamena, by Lord Sankarshana, Nivriti, renunciation, Dharma Bhirataya, unto one who has taken this religious vow. Tena, by him, Sanat Kumaraya, unto Sanat Kumara, Sa, he, Cha, also, Aha, said, Prishtaha, when inquired of, Sankhyanaya, unto the great sage Sankhyanaya, Anga, my dear Vidura, Drishtabhritaya, unto one who has taken such a vow. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swamy Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Lord Sankarshana thus spoke the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam to the great sage Sanat Kumara, who has already taken the vow of renunciation. Sanat Kumara also in turn, when inquired by his Sankhyayana Muni, explained Srimad Bhagavatam as he had heard it from Sankarshana. Please repeat. Lord Sankarshana thus spoke the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam to the great sage Sanat Kumara, who has already taken the vow of renunciation. Sanat Kumara also, in his turn, when inquired by Sankhyayana Muni, explained Srimad Bhagavatam as he had heard it from Sankarshana. Purport. This is the way of Parampara system. Although Sanat Kumara, the well-known greatly saintly Kumara, was in perfect stage of life, still he heard the message of Srimad Bhagavatam from Lord Sankarshana. Similarly, when he was questioned by Sankhayana Rishi He spoke to him the same message he had heard from Lord Sankarsana. In other words, unless one hears from the proper authority, one cannot become a preacher. In devotional service, therefore, 2 items out of the 9, namely hearing and chanting, are most important. Without hearing nicely, one cannot preach the message of Vedic knowledge. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta Prabhu. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitan Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamy Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So in this verse, the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam, how Srimad Bhagavatam was discussed, heard, narrated amongst great sages since time immemorial. And this knowledge is coming down in parampara. So Prabhupada says this is the way of parampara system. We all are very fortunate that this great Amala Purana, which is also called Paramahamsa Samhita, is part of our daily schedule. Every day we read, we hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam, even in the Srimad Bhagavatam and other Vedic literatures, the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam is described. How this literature is very, very special. Sarva Vedanta Saram Hi. Vedanta, Vedas is a huge body of knowledge. And actually, even if we are interested in Vedas, reading Vedas, understanding Vedas, we can get completely lost, royally lost. Because as we all know, Vedas also have the Karma Kanda portion. A lot of people who are so-called religious are the followers of the Vedas, but they will do different kinds of rituals, but completely unaware of what is the essence. So here it is said, Sarva Vedanta Saram Hi. Saram means the gist, the essence, the summary, the conclusion. Sarva Vedanta Saram Hi Shri Bhagavatam Ishyate. This Srimad Bhagavatam is the Saram, is the essence, the ripened fruit of the tree of Vedic knowledge. Tad rasamrita triptasya nitisad. What is that last line? Anyatra syad ratit kvachit. Srimad Bhagavatam is declared to be the essence of all Vedanta philosophy. One who has felt the satisfaction from its nectarian mellows will never be attracted to any other literature. So now here it said, one who has felt the satisfaction from its nectarian mellow. Now, although Srimad Bhagavatam is a ripened fruit of the Vedic knowledge, but it's a fact that this taste has to be awakened. And that's why our process is called sadhana bhakti. Even if we don't like, even if we don't have taste, even if we at times feel sleepy. Why do we feel sleepy? Because there is no rasa. Anything which is very attractive, Generally, people don't feel sleepy while watching IPL. Right? There's a lot of, every moment there is rasa. But Srimad Bhagavatam has real rasa. But that rasa to awaken, it will take time. The Prabhupada gives a very nice example that if you are touching a hot plate with hand and you are wearing a rubber glove, you will not feel the heat from the surface of the hot plate, even though it is hot. Why? Because there is a covering which is stopping the heat to percolate or reach the hand. So the covering which is stopping us to really relish Srimad Bhagavatam or really relish chanting or really relish devotional activities is the covering of the anarthas, the false ego, the bodily concept of life, material desires, the material perceptions we have. And it takes time for the perception, for that covering to dissolve. So the example is given, if the hand is there on that hot plate and we are wearing a rubber glove, we will not be able to feel the heat. But initially, although experiential presence is not, experientially we are not able to experience heat, but to faith, we know that we are touching the rubber glove to the hot plate, and very soon the heat will percolate, the rubber glove will melt. So, likewise, in the process of sadhana bhakti, although we may not relish immediately, but we have faith that this is Amala Purana, this is nectarian, this is ripened fruit of Vedic knowledge. This holy name is non-different from Krishna. Just by chanting and associating with the holy name, we'll associate with none other than Lord Shri Krishna. So that faith is required. And that faith, where does it come from? That faith also comes by Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Nashta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. So the means also is the same, the end also is the same. The means is by regular hearing, Nashta Prayeshu, all the anarthas will this thing. And the end is that when all the anarthas will vanquish, we will able to relish Srimad Bhagavatam, relish chanting. So there is a very nice verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 3rd chapter. Krishna swadhamupagate. Krishna, after he has left for his dhama, his own abode, dharma gnanadibisaha, along with dharma. So this question is being asked. Kalau nashta drisham esha puranardo adunodikaha. The Srimad Bhagavatam is as brilliant as the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali shall get light from this Purana. So if we do not regularly hear, regularly read Srimad Bhagavatam, then what will happen? Again, we will be covered with the darkness of ignorance. And our vision will be lost. That's why sometimes, devotees can get bewildered. And that's because somehow we have lost our vision. Covered by ignorance, covered by illusion. Just like we take bath on a daily basis, if we don't take bath, we feel uneasy, we feel tired, we feel unclean. Why we feel unclean? Because we have got habituated. We have got habituated. We have experience the benefit of taking the bath every day. You won't believe there are people in this world, many people in this world who don't take bath regularly. And these days, to some extent, it has become a fashion also. Even many Western countries, people use deodorants. They'll smell good externally, but they may not be habituated to taking bath every day. I have personally seen in hostels when I was studying, there were some students, they would take weekly once. I mean, it is difficult for us to understand how can a person be, but there are people who are in that consciousness, covered by ignorance. Tamogun, that is the power of these gunas. It makes you comfortable in such degraded states. In slums, if you go, so filthy. You know, some people have wearing dresses which they have not washed for a week, 10 days, 15 days. It's very common. In India, we can actually see. So just like we've got used to taking bath, one day we don't take bath, we feel so uneasy. Devotees even at times when traveling by train, they somehow find ways and means to at least put some water and take some kind of a bath. So likewise, because we have got used to, we have experienced the benefit. One day we don't take bath, we feel so uneasy. Likewise, if we have genuinely relished pure consciousness, pure Krishna consciousness, relished the nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam, then even if we do not hear for one day, we'll feel uneasy. We'll feel out of place, we'll feel something is missing. That may not be our state presently. Presently, even if one day we don't read, one day we don't hear, we feel comfortable. But we should realize that that's a disease state. It's not a ideal state. Ideal state is a person is eager. So Prabhupada in one place says, I was hearing one lecture where it says, Prabhupada used to sleep for 2 or 3 hours in the night. And at times he would get up at 12 midnight and start till 4 a.m. 4 hours, 5 hours on his dictaphone, he'll be dictating Bhaktivedanta purports. How eager was Prabhupada to give this message to the world? Even at times when he was traveling, whole day it was a busy schedule, meeting a lot of people, traveling. You know, it's not easy. Sometimes international travel, especially in India, you know, people think going west, going to America, it's so full of joy, full of fun. In the flight, you're served different meals, everything. You can just call the air hostess and everything will be served. Actually, it is very difficult. 15 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours, you're sitting in one place, cramped. So, Prabhupada was having that kind of a schedule. He'll be traveling, he'll be meeting a lot of people, and still he was eager. That eagerness is the one which made him every day without fail get up in the night. His secretaries, young people would be sleeping and Prabhupada would be up dictating purports. So how eager he was to give that purport, give that knowledge, give that message to the world. So even if we have an iota of that eagerness, the iota of that eagerness, if it is there to hear Srimad Bhagavatam or read Srimad Bhagavatam, we will start developing a taste for it. That eagerness is not there because the modes of material nature. It takes time. So why it is called Paramahamsa Samhita? Because it is relished by even Paramahamsas. Here it is said, spoke the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam to the great sage Sanat Kumara, who was already taken the vow of renunciation, was in turn inquired by Sankhyayana Muni. So this Srimad Bhagavatam is not, it's Paramahamsa Samhita. Even Paramahamsas are discussing it, relishing it, and enjoying the nectar which is there in this Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is relishable by everyone, unlike Vedanta philosophy. Vedanta philosophy, only those who are interested in Karma Kanda, who have some material desires to fulfill, they will be interested. But Srimad Bhagavatam actually is relishable by everyone. Hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is a yajna. Why it is a yajna? Because it is very relishable to the Supreme Lord. It gives pleasure to the Supreme Lord. Yajna means for the satisfaction of Supreme Lord. Why Srimad Bhagavatam reading, hearing, chanting is a yajna? This chanting and hearing the class or Srimad Bhagavatam is a yajna. It is very pleasing to Supreme Lord. Can anyone say why it is pleasing to Supreme Lord? Why it is pleasing to Supreme Lord? Why it is yajna? When we hear Srimad Bhagavatam or when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, why the Lord is pleased with us? Why? Anyone? Why the Lord is pleased? We are getting purified. Why the Lord is pleased? Because we are part and parcel of the Lord. Just like a father is happy when the child which is lost is returning back home. Just like when we are chanting, the Lord is pleased. The Lord has descended. When we are giving our attention to the Lord, chanting attentively, the Lord is pleased. Why is pleased? Because the Lord has descended and we are giving our attention, we are touching the Lord is pleased. Very soon He'll get purified. Very soon He'll come back to me. Just like a father, the lost son, he has left the home and the father comes to know that he's returning home. The father will be pleased. So likewise, when we hear Srimad Bhagavatam attentively, the Lord who is there in our heart is pleased that now he is reading the right thing, he is understanding the right thing. His good fortune will open. All his miseries, this samsara davanala, which is struggle for material existence, will now subside. Yoga Atma Shuddhaye Nashta Prayesho Bhadreshu. Then the transcendental attraction for Krishna will awaken. We know Srimad Bhagavatam conversation happened between Parikshit Maharaj and Shukadev Goswami. Shukadev Goswami was son of Vedavyas. We have heard that 16 years he was in the womb of his mother. When we are in ignorance, ignorance is bliss. So we are eager to go to places which are even very contaminated. Whereas Paramahamsas exalted, why Shukadev Goswami was reluctant to come from the womb? Because he knew it's a Maya's kingdom. So then he came out. As soon as he came out, he didn't want to get attached to his family, to his hearth, home, again fall in trap of illusion, Maya. So he left home. And he was roaming around and going home to home. What do great sages do? They are not, whenever they feel a little hungry, they beg little and take little alms. And otherwise they are busy remembering the Lord, chanting the glories. So while he was going some homes to beg alms, he reached the home of, anyone knows? How did Shukadev Goswami got attracted in the message for the messages of Srimad Bhagavatam? So he reached back his own home, Vyasadev's home. And that Vyasadev was at that time compiling Srimad Bhagavatam, Vedavyas. and he was chanting a particular verse, the translation. Anyone knows which verse was that? So that verse is the 3rd canto, 2nd chapter, 23rd verse, and I don't have the Sanskrit of that verse, but that verse is 3rd canto, 2nd chapter. Will it be in this? Oh, it's here only. Yeah. Aho bakiyam stana kalakaitvam. So the translation is, alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he who granted the position of a mother to a she-demon Putana? Although she was unfaithful and she prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breast. So Vedvyas is compiling Srimad Bhagavatam and he is narrating this particular verse. And when Shukadev Goswami heard about Krishna, oh, how can there be a personality more merciful than one for a person who has come to kill him, smeared the breast with poison, and although she was unfaithful, in the garb of a mother came to kill the child. Just see what kind of cheating. Took the role of a mother. Mother is supposed to be unconditional love. And that also with the idea of feeding the baby. Baby who is so small, completely dependent on the mother. Took that baby on the lap. And what did Krishna do? To such unfaithful a person who has come to kill him, gave liberation. I consider the demons who are inimical towards the Lord to be more than the devotees, because while fighting with the Lord, absorbed in the thoughts of enmity, they are able to see the Lord carried on the shoulder of Garuda, the son of Tarksha, and carrying the wheel weapon in his hand. So the Lord is so merciful. When Shukadev Goswami got to know about it, he got attracted to that personality, to that Lord Shri Krishna. And then he heard the entire Srimad Bhagavatam from Vedvyas. So, Srimad Bhagavatam, as I said, is the ripened fruit of the tree of Vedic knowledge. Then Prabhupada says, just like in this world, anywhere you go, anywhere you see, people are engaged in some kind of questions and answers. We see the birds chirping, there's also some kind of question answer going on. In their own language, we may not be able to understand. Everywhere, in every species. You see some news, some answer you are getting. What happened? What was the question in the mind is what happened? The answer is, we're getting the answer. This happened, this happened. So Prabhupada says, iska bhav kya hai? Right? Businessmen, students, everywhere it's question answers. So these question and answers are going on, but one cannot be satisfied, one cannot achieve happiness, contentment, if the nature of question answers are very mundane. All the question answers which are happening is very mundane, material subject matter. Srimad Bhagavatam also contains question answers. But these are not ordinary questions, they are not ordinary answers. That's why Prabhupada says perfect questions, perfect answers. The questions are also asked by great exalted sages, and answers are given by great exalted personalities. Why Srimad Bhagavatam is very important? Today we are in such a state we can't even ask the right questions. Forget about getting the right answers. Our questions, even if assuming somebody comes and asks, okay, do you have any question you want to ask, any clarification, any doubts in your mind, you want any solution? Typically, the doubts, solutions, clarifications, questions will be about eating, sleeping, mating, defending. I have this problem, how can I solve it? And when we perfect in this question and answers, then we can apparently advance in material comforts, material life. But then we cannot be satisfied. Why? Because birth, death, old age, disease. I know one family in Mumbai. Yesterday, that lady's husband sent a message to me. He says, please speak to my wife. During COVID, she lost her father. They are very rich, very rich. And her father was about 81 years old. And you won't believe that at 81, he used to go for a walk 8-10 kilometers a day. Completely healthy. Sometimes, after 70, you have diabetes, you have hypertension, you have blood pressure, you take medicines and all that. Completely healthy. And he was following a very natural, even when he would go sick, he will not take any medicines. So during COVID, first 4-5 days when the fever came, so he was very confident that nothing is going to happen. I'll just maybe fast for 2 days, but then 4 days, 5 days, the fever is increasing. It's not subsiding. Very unusual. So they got little panicky. So they rushed to the hospital. Now, since they are rich, they can afford the best of hospital. In those times when hospital was difficult to get, all the beds were occupied. Second wave. So they got the hospital, one of the best hospitals, and this whole family rushed from Bombay. And since with money you can buy a lot of things, you can get the puja done in best of temples. The pujaris will do whatever you want to do, right? So they got all kinds of pujas done. The father was in the hospital, and throughout the day, the entire family is trying different means, the best of doctors, the best of temples, some temple in Rajasthan, some temple in this thing. Online puja is happening. The pujari is there chanting their gotras, family, this thing, and doing puja. All that they did. To cut the story short, unfortunately, that person expired. And since they had a lot of money, so they tried everything. That time, this there was blood transfusion. They removed that plasma something. What was that? Anyone remember? Blood plasma was this thing happened. So that had just started, because they were also quite groping in dark how to treat COVID initial days. So he was among the first ones to get that, because they can afford. Okay, 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, go ahead. Money is not an issue. And something went wrong. And it started becoming complicated. Health started deteriorating, and one day expired. You won't believe that was 2.5 years. And during COVID time, I had regular sessions with them. Tried explaining the Gita, the sense, how Krishna says this is Dukkhalayam. Every relationship has to break in this world. Every relationship. As sure as death. Everyone has to die one day. So, yesterday, husband said that, Prabhuji, please speak to my wife. She has even lost faith in God, because she has a grudge now that even gods could not help when the father was sick. Even the gods could not help. See how people, if we don't have this knowledge, how people can have very wrong understanding of life. We have our own understanding of what is Lord's protection. So I am planning to speak to her and tell upfront that I am going to be very कड़वा सच बोलूँगा मैं. जो मैं बोलूँगा वो बहुत कड़वा होगा. Somebody has to be shaken out of illusion. अगर प्यार से बोलो नहीं होता. That's what Bhagavatam is doing. Is shaking us out of illusion. Fools and rascals, Prabhupada says it is required. Sometimes people wonder why Prabhupada is using harsh words. It's required for us to come out of illusion. Otherwise, even so-called religious people, it's all about peace, happiness, prosperity, sukh, shanti. That's not what religion, ultimate goal is. Ultimate goal is we understand what is the reality, what is the purpose of our existence, why we have come to this material world, which is dukkhalayam ashashvatam, and eventually go back. So, Srimad Bhagavatam is full of exalted questions. We cannot even ask the right questions because in such illusion. So questions are asked by exalted personalities, answers are given by exalted personalities, and we just hear them and get enlightened. Otherwise, left to ourselves, we'll be asking, kya bhav hai? That is our state. So, perfect questions, perfect answers. That perfect questions which we have no ability to ask, and those perfect answers which we have no ability to, we are so fortunate that we are getting cooked perfect questions, perfect answers on our plate. Just we have to do is give oral reception. Just hear. One who gives full attention and respect to hearing Srimad Bhagavatam achieves unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord, the giver of salvation. Nishtha. Right now we may not have unflinching faith. When we give oral reception to Srimad Bhagavatam, we develop unflinching faith. One can derive from the study of Srimad Bhagavatam all benefits that is possible to be derived from the personal presence of the Lord. That's why it is said Srimad Bhagavatam has to be even worshipped. Prabhupada used to say every house there should be Srimad Bhagavatam. It's like a deity. It carries with it all the transcendental blessings of Lord Shri Krishna that we can expect from his personal contact. Regular hearing and recitation of the Srimad Bhagavatam is the only way for self-realization. Other attempts are simply a waste of time, for they do not give any tangible results. So, we should ensure that this morning reading, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is given top priority. Sometimes we can start regularly missing the classes. During that time we have some service. Or we take it for granted, ठीक है, हफ्ता 10 दिन नहीं पढ़ा, क्या हो पड़ता है. This material world is so designed that left to, if we leave ourselves, we will naturally get the current is of materialism. Anywhere you see, it's all about matter, material and all this. You go out, people, you see billboards, you hear news, you watch anything. It's all about, it's an extension of illusion which we are in. It reinforces illusion. It reinforces ignorance. Srimad Bhagavatam is the one which is breaking that illusion. So if we stop hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, in fact, if we just don't hear, we will naturally start falling in illusion. Because that's the current, that's the natural drive, that's the natural flow. To go in Maya, you don't have to put effort. You don't just be idle, you will go in Maya. Whereas to come out of Maya, some effort is required. You have to hear. That's why initially it is said sadhana bhakti. Even if we don't like, we hear. We just simply sit. Srimad Bhagavatam is the literary incarnation of Lord Shri Krishna and therefore non-different from him. Srimad Bhagavatam should be worshipped as respectfully as we worship the Lord. Those who listen to the Srimad Bhagavatam may put questions to the speaker in order to elicit the clear meaning, but this should be done not in a challenging spirit. One must submit question with great regard for the speaker and the subject matter. Sometimes we come across, especially preaching to parents or to relatives. So I've come across many times people saying that, my parents, they still eat non-veg. How to convince them? I'm trying to convince them. What should I tell them? What argument should I? Which verse should I speak to them? Sometimes it is not the logic which is, or sometimes it's not the knowledge per se which is lacking, because of which they are not getting convinced. The attitude with which they are hearing what is being said matters a lot. So if a person is rebellious, even if we make the best of arguments, the best logic, the best verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam we may quote, but the person is not submissive, it will just bounce back. In fact, he will become more negative. So now does that mean that Srimad Bhagavatam, when we hear, we should just blindly accept everything? Actually, Srimad Bhagavatam is full of question and answers. One answer is being given, and that answer, to clarify what is being told and the doubt which has arisen because of that answer, there's another question. It is perfectly fine to ask any question. Prabhuji, here it is said that Krishna is being born, we are celebrating Janmashtami, but then another place it is said that he's Aja, he's unborn. How do we understand this? It may look like we are doubting the statement being made here. But that's perfectly fine if the attitude is the right attitude. Just like Arjuna, on one side you are saying this, other side you are saying this, I am getting confused. Tell me for certain which is good for me. Indirectly he is saying, Krishna, you are confusing me by giving some instructions which are contradictory. So it's perfectly fine, even not only in questions, even in our day-to-day dealings, even when we see something happening in the temple, some decisions being made, some policies being made, it's perfectly fine to question, But what really is most important is the attitude with which we question. If it is coming out of rebellious nature, doubting, if it is not completely mind is not accepting it, then there's a problem. Bhagavad Gita is the sound incarnation of the Lord because it is spoken by the Supreme Lord, and Srimad Bhagavatam is a sound representative of the Lord. So Bhagavad Gita is the sound incarnation of the Lord. It's spoken by the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam is a sound representative of the Lord because it was spoken by the incarnation of the Lord about the activities of the Lord. And Prabhupada has said that these two books, Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, very, very important. We should sterilize our mind and body every day by chanting Hare Krishna mantra, just like, in COVID times, everywhere people were going to sterilize your hands. You had everywhere that, what was that liquid called? Sanitizer. Sanitizer. Everywhere, every shop, everywhere you enter, sanitizer they would sprinkle. Just like Charnamrit, you get When you get a temple, everywhere you get some sanitizer. DMart, one person will be standing outside. When you go in, first sanitize. So, just like we sterilize our mind and body every day by chanting Hare Krishna, in Kali Yuga, Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord has descended in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam, literary incarnation of the Lord. And all our Nashta Prayesh Bhadresh, all the abhadras, all the misgivings, all the wrong perceptions, wrong ideas we have of the world. What will make me happy? What is best for me? What I should be doing? What is the meaning of success? Everything, all that wrong perceptions will be washed away. How? Simply by Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. That's why Prabhupada used to criticize Bhagavad Saptah, not because anything wrong. Something is better than nothing. Why he used to criticize? Because 7 days, if we take bath 7 days in a year, and nicely, but we are getting contaminated every day. We are getting dirty every day. We are perspiring every day. That's why Prabhupada, nothing wrong, Srimad Bhagavatam, even chanting one time is good for the soul. It's a permanent credit. Somebody is hearing for 7 days also, it's good for him. Nothing bad. But why Prabhupada was not in favor of Bhagavad Saptah? Because Srimad Bhagavatam himself says, Nashta, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Why Nityam? Because every day we are getting contaminated. Every day we are seeing things, we are hearing things, we are doing things which is propelling us towards illusion. And on a daily basis we have to purify. We have to negate that ill effects of all this material things which we do or hear. Simply by hearing or chanting the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, one can be purified. Whatever knowledge exists in the world is present in Srimad Bhagavatam. It includes literature, poetry, astronomy, philosophy, religion, and love of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam is Puranam Amalam. If one simply reads Srimad Bhagavatam, he gains the topmost education. For if one studies Srimad Bhagavatam, he will be well versed in every subject matter. Even if one does not understand a single word of the mantras of Srimad Bhagavatam, the vibrations themselves have such power that simply by chanting one will be purified. Shrunvata Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana. The word Punya means pious, Shravana means hearing, and Kirtana means chanting. One who chants or hears the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam becomes pious automatically. To become pious, one generally has to endeavor a great deal, but if one simply hears the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, one becomes pious automatically. Therefore, it is a rigid principle in every temple of our Krishna consciousness movement that there must be daily class for hearing and chanting Srimad Bhagavatam. We'll stop here. Anyone has any question? Anything like to ask based on what we discussed today? Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
హరే కృష్ణ గోల్డెన్ టెంపుల్ వారి మరో అపురూప కానుక హరే కృష్ణ వాణి ఆధ్యాత్మిక మాసపత్రిక. ఇప్పుడు మొబైల్ యాప్ ద్వారా కూడా సులభంగా పత్రికలు చదువుకునే సౌకర్యం, వార్షిక సభ్యత్వం, భగవద్గీత, భాగవత ప్రవచనాలు, స్ఫూర్తి సందేశాలు, ఇంకా మరెన్నో సదుపాయాలతో హరే కృష్ణ వాణి మొబైల్ యాప్ నేడే డౌన్లోడ్ చేసుకోండి. మరిన్ని వివరాల కోసం కాల్ చేయండి 9133107700. హరే కృష్ణ గోల్డెన్ టెంపుల్ వారి మరో అపురూప కానుక హరే కృష్ణ వాణి ఆధ్యాత్మిక మాసపత్రిక. ఇప్పుడు మొబైల్ యాప్ ద్వారా కూడా సులభంగా పత్రికలు చదువుకునే సౌకర్యం, వార్షిక సభ్యత్వం,